Hey everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. Today we are going to be making a Slimline spring card. So let's talk about the products we're using. I have the Simply Sentimental Happy Stamp Set along with the matching dies. You know I love these Simply Sentimentals. We also have the Scalloped Slimline die. It's great. We have the Modern Embossed panel frames for Slimline. We also have this darling Slimline Bunnies stamp set. It was released last year, but you know, I just love it. They're bunnies and they're so cute. And then we have the Marshmallow alphabet die along with some inks that you can see there. So we're going to jump right into this. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of white cardstock into my MISTI. This measures about 4 inches by 8.5 inches. And I'll put that Slimline Bunnies stamp set in there. We're going to do a little ombre stamping. I'm going to start with that Sweet Petunia pink by Ink on 3. I'll soften the edge of where I stamped, make sure that that is down in that lower right hand corner, and then I'll stamp that first part. Miles is going to come in and say hello. He's so curious. And then we're going to clean off our stamp a little bit. And then don't worry, if you do have the Sweet Petunia pink, it does stain your stamps a little bit, but it doesn't affect the stamping. The next color we're bringing in is that Bee Sting yellow. We're going to go more towards the middle, and then we'll soften the edges on both sides. Make sure that that piece is down in that lower right hand corner once again, and then we can stamp that down as well. Clean off our stamp a little bit. The yellow doesn't stain. And then we'll bring in our final color, which is the Trinity Teal. You'll notice that as I do these, I'm overlapping those colors a little bit, and that'll create new colors, which is great. We'll end up with this rainbow of colors. Soften the edge. Once again, make sure that that is down in that lower right hand corner, and then we'll stamp that down. I'll pull that back, and then you'll see all those fun colors for all those different bunnies. Here's where I bring in that Modern Embossed panel. This is the second largest one. I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. And then we have this beautiful embossed edge. And then I also have the Scalloped Slimline die that I ran through my die cutting machine over some green cardstock. And that is going to fit beautifully behind our little bunnies. The next thing I need to do is stamp out the word spring, or die cut out the word spring using the Marshmallow alphabet. So I'm pulling out all the letters, making sure that I spell it correctly. And then I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine 3 times. We'll attach all of the letters together that go together. So we'll stack our S's, and then they'll have a little bit of a chipboard feel. If you want to make them a little thicker, you could probably do one more, maybe even a couple more layers, but I thought 3 was plenty. And then we'll just do that for all of our letters. And it looks pretty flat there, as you can see, but you know, there are several ways to fix that. I am going to do what I have been doing a lot lately with any letters that are big like this that either need to be colored or are die cut. I'm going to make them ombre. So I'm bringing back that Sweet Petunia pink, and I will just blend that from the bottom up. So it'll be nice and dark at the bottom and get a little lighter as we head into the middle of each letter. I thought that was fun, and obviously I think that's fun because I do it a lot of the time. I can't help it. Whether it be with coloring or using ink, I just love these big thick letters to have ombre. I'm going to stamp out the word happy, or one of the words that comes from that Simply Sentimental happy. I liked this one, and then we'll run that through our die cutting machine. You'll notice I already have a yellow banner off to the side. It's stitched, but I'm not happy with it. I'll keep the one that has the fishtail banner, and then I'm going to modify the other one. We're going to re-die cut that. But let me run this through my die cutting machine. And here you'll see I don't need this to be quite as big. I want it to actually be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine like this. It will have the stitched edging all the way around all 3 edges. And then I'll just have to move that and run it through my die cutting machine just a little bit to make sure I get that stitch edging on that final edge. And so then from here, I can just cut that flag banner in half, and we can make it work. But before we do that, I'm going to stamp out the sentiment on our little piece here. And that sentiment comes from the Slimline Bunnies. It actually says hopping by to say hi, but I don't want hi on there. So I'm going to modify that as well. We're just going to put this in that MISTI. We'll close the door, pick up the stamp, and then because it's clear, it's super easy for me to just ink up all the words that I want, which would be hopping by to say. We're going to leave hi off of there. So I'll stamp that one more time, make sure it's nice and crisp. Clean off our stamp, and then you'll take a look there, and it does look way too big. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that in half, and we'll modify it from there. I want this to be popped up a little bit so that that banner sticks out. So I'm going to take some foam squares, and I'm going to put 4 on the back of this. That way it'll make sure and give it some height, and then it'll almost look like it's that bottom banner is folded underneath. So then I'll peel off 2 of those, and I'm going to use my glass mat to line that up using the grid. So I just lined it up on one of the inch marks and then put that down at about 1/2 inch mark. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side using that grid. So that way everything is nice and even. And then we can do the exact same thing with our panel itself. I want to make sure that I put that on there centered. So I'm going to use my grid mat once again. Basically, I've got about 1 3/4 inches in on each side, and that's how I'm going to put my banner down. So I'll start with that. I'll glue it down again. It ends up being 1 3/4 inch roughly on each side, and then I can stick that down. And that'll make sure that it's nice and centered. And then we're going to do the same thing with the word spring. We're just going to line it up. And we're going to try to make sure that those outside letters basically line up with the outside edge of the banner. So I'll start with the G, and I'll put that one down first. And then we're going to go on to the S and do the same thing. And all the letters will fit in there just nicely. We just use that banner to make sure and line everything up. And then we're going to work our way in. So I'll do the P next. And just kind of lining that up on the bottom as well, making sure that it's fairly, similar distance from the bottom. Pop down the N, next the I, and then our final letter, which is the R. And then I can just grab the word happy, and then we can take that glue and glue that down in between. So it'll say hopping by to say happy spring. How cute is that? Love it. All right, and then we're going to take our panel and we'll attach it down to our green panel. And you've got this nice, really pretty green border. And then I need a base. So my base measures 7 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 3.5 inches. So it's a nice white base. And then we can take our green panel and attach it to the front of our card base using that same liquid glue. And there will be a little bit of that white showing, but I kind of like that. So pop that down on top of the card base. And then I'm going to bring in the stamp set one more time. And we've got 2 little bunnies that are all on their own in there. So we're going to stamp those on the inside of our card using the bee sting yellow. So it'll kind of tie the outside to the inside a little bit. And obviously there will be plenty of room to write to our recipient. Now we have to embellish. You could leave it just as it is, and it's a very pretty card all on its own, but I decide to bring in some Nuvo glitter drops in the color White Blizzard, and I am just going to bring this up through the ombre itself, kind of feathering it at the top of that ombre. And when it dries, it'll be nice and clear. It's a little milky right now, but it'll be nice and clear, and it'll have lots of pretty glitter in it, so it looks really, really nice. And then I couldn't stop there either. I mean, you could, but I couldn't. So I'm going to bring in several different embellishments in rainbow colors. I didn't bring in the yellow, but I have the pink. That pink is bubble gum, and we're just going to put a few of those down using our pickup stick. And then we'll glue those down using that same liquid glue. But I'm going to put in between, I'll clean up my mess, and pour those embellishments into our little tidy tray. Works so great to easily put them away as well. And then we move on to some orange, being careful not to put our hand in the Nuvo drops that we used. And that orange was Fireball. Then we're going to come in with some Rainforest, which is the green one. And then we just have that blue, which is called Tropical Waters. And those are very, very subtle, but it's super fun. Almost reminds me of little candy dots my grandma used to give me when I was a kid. So there you have it. That finishes off our card for today. I really hope you like it. If you did, please hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.